Brothers and sisters, today I want to talk to you about the power of silent moves. Those moments in life when you're working, building, and trusting without announcing every step to the world. It's in the quiet, in the hidden places, where some of the most profound transformations occur. You see, God doesn't always need a crowd to perform a miracle in your life. There are moves you're making right now in silence that are going to shake the world. Let me share with you 5 keynotes on how silent moves create loud results. The power of preparation in silence. Let me tell you something, family. There is a divine process that happens in the silence. And I'm not just talking about physical silence. I'm talking about that inner quietness, that space where no one sees the work you're putting in, where no one knows the labor, the sacrifice, the tears, the prayer, and the persistence you've been sowing into the ground. But hear me today, it's in that silence, in that hidden place, where the real work begins. It's where your destiny is being forged. Think about it. When God was about to create the world, he didn't shout it from the heavens. He didn't send a messenger to announce it. The Bible says that in the beginning, the earth was formless and void. But in that formlessness, in that void, something was happening. Something was being prepared that would one day take shape in a way that no one could have imagined. That's what preparation in silence looks like. It's formless, it's raw, it doesn't look like much on the outside, but on the inside, God is working. You see, you may not see the results yet. You might not hear the applause. You might not have the crowd cheering you on. But let me tell you something. What's happening in that silence is more important than any external validation yet. The greatest preparations are when no one is looking. When the lights are off and the crowd is silent. That's when God is shaping you. That's when he's chiseling away the rough edges. That's when he's building your character and your strength and your resilience. There's power in that process. It's the same way a seed grows. A seed goes into the ground, it's buried in darkness, and it appears like nothing is happening. It's just silent. You don't hear the roots breaking through the soil. You don't see the sprout pushing its way toward the surface. But under the soil, in the unseen, there's a process taking place. There's an activation of life beneath the surface. It's in the quiet, in the unseen depths that the seed is transforming. The seed doesn't need to announce itself. It's just doing the work that it's designed to do. And one day when the time is right, it will burst forth with fruit, with growth, and with life. Some of you right now are in your season of silence. You're in your season of preparation. And it might feel like nothing is happening. You might be looking around thinking, God, I'm doing everything I know to do. I'm praying, I'm working, I'm serving. But where are the results? And God is saying, don't you worry about that. The results are coming. But I need you to trust me in the silence. I'm preparing you in ways you cannot see. Listen, the enemy wants you to think that because you're not being seen, nothing is happening. But that's a lie from the pit of hell. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's not powerful. Just because people aren't clapping for you doesn't mean God isn't working on your behalf. There's a preparation that happens in the dark that will eventually bring light. It will be loud. You see, preparation in silence isn't just about what you do. It's also about what you don't do. It's about what you resist. It's about the discipline to stay focused when distractions come, the strength to keep pressing forward when the applause fades, and the grace to wait in trust. God is not just working on your skills or your talents. He's working on your spirit. He's teaching you patience, perseverance, and faith. He's teaching you to rely on him even when you can't see what's ahead. This is not a time to be discouraged, family. This is not a time to be dismayed. If anything, the silence is a sign that God is preparing you for something big, something greater than you can even imagine. You might not have the stage right now, but trust that he's building your platform. You may not have the audience today, but he's working behind the scenes, laying the foundation for something that will shake nations. What you're doing right now in silence, those prayers you're praying when no one is watching, that work you're doing when no one sees it, God is multiplying it. Don't despise the silence. Don't hate the process. Because I'm telling you, when the preparation is done, when God has finished the work he's doing in you, the results will be loud. And every person who doubted you, every person who counted you out will be left speechless when they see what you've become. So if you're in the silence today, know that God is working. He's preparing you for a season that will reveal all that you've been through. Stay faithful, stay planted, stay persistent, because the loud results that will come from your silent moves are going to echo for generations to come. God bless you. The quiet strength of focus. Let me tell you something, family. Focus is a quiet strength. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it doesn't need a spotlight, but it's one of the most powerful forces in your life, and it's something that can move mountains, change lives, and transform your destiny. You see, when we talk about focus, we often think about laser sharp vision, the ability to see a goal and relentlessly pursue it. But I want to take it deeper today, because focus is not just about what you're looking at. It's about what you're refusing to see, what you're willing to ignore, and what you're choosing not to pay attention to. Focus is a discipline. It's a power that works quietly, silently, behind the scenes, but it has the strength to hold you steady when the storm is raging all around you. We live in a world full of distractions, family, everywhere you turn, there's something pulling at your attention. Social media is screaming at you. The news is constantly in your face. People want your time, your energy, and your resources. The world wants to take you off track. It wants to scatter your mind, dilute your purpose, and derail your destiny. But when you learn the power of focus, you learn to silence the noise and lock your eyes on what matters. Focus means you're not distracted by what's happening around you. Focus means you're not letting the enemy's voice drown out the still small whisper of God. Focus means you're not allowing the opinions of others to sway you. Focus means you stay locked in even when everything else is falling apart. It's a strength that comes from within, a power that comes from the Spirit of God that says, I don't need to respond to every distraction. I don't need to react to every criticism. I don't need to explain myself to people who don't understand the assignment. Focus means you know who you are, you know where you're going, and you're not letting anything take you off course. Look at Nehemiah in the Bible. Nehemiah had a job to do, rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Now, Nehemiah didn't have a lot of resources. He didn't have the wealth or the army. But what Nehemiah had was focus. Nehemiah had a purpose. And when Sanballat and Tobiah came to him, trying to distract him, trying to pull him away from the work, Nehemiah didn't get distracted by their insults or their threats. No, Nehemiah had one focus. I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Some of you need to get that attitude today. You need to declare over your life, I am doing a great work and I will not come down. You are building something with your life. You are building your family. You are building your future. You are building your destiny. And you don't have time to be distracted by people who don't understand your vision, by negativity that tries to surround you, or by fears that rise up in your heart. Focus means that you don't get sidetracked by the temporary. Too many of us are focused on what's happening in the moment, what feels good right now, what looks good right now. But I'm here to tell you, the enemy will use that momentary satisfaction to pull you away from your long-term purpose. You can't afford to get distracted by temporary pleasures, by fleeting moments of success. Focus on what's eternal. Focus on what God has called you to do, because what you're working on right now is bigger than what you see. I tell you something else. The power of focus comes when you have the courage to look beyond your current circumstances. The storm may be raging, the battle may be fierce, but when you're focused, you don't just look at the storm. You look beyond it. You see the promise that's waiting for you on the other side. Focus allows you to see the outcome before you even get there. It gives you the vision to keep going when everything around you says stop. Focus gives you the ability to block out the distractions and stay on task. It's like when an athlete gets on the field, when they step up to the plate or to the line, they don't see the crowd, they don't hear the noise. They're focused on the goal, they're focused on winning, and they know that every move they make, every action, that's what focus does for you. It makes every step count, it makes every decision intentional, it makes every moment purposeful. Family, your focus is a shield. It shields you from the negative thoughts, the distractions, the lies the enemy tries to whisper into your ears. It strengthens you when you feel weak. It keeps you grounded when everything else is trying to pull you in different directions. It's like a fortress around your mind and your spirit. And when you stay focused, you create an atmosphere where you can thrive, even when the world around you is chaotic. Focus is also a test of your faith, because when you're focused, you're saying to God, I trust you more than I trust what I see. I believe you more than I believe the circumstances around me. I will not allow fear to pull me off course. I will not allow doubt to cloud my vision. Focus is the evidence that you've made up your mind. You've decided that no matter what, you are going to see this thing through. The quiet strength of focus is the quiet power that keeps you moving when no one else sees the progress. Is the power that keeps you steady when the winds are blowing and the waves are crashing. Is the power that says, I may not have everything I want right now, but I'm still focused on where I'm going. Focus doesn't need validation. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need attention. It just moves. It just works. It just stays steady, and it gets the job done. When you learn to focus, everything changes. You start seeing opportunities instead of obstacles. You start seeing blessings in places others would never look. You start walking in a kind of peace and assurance that says, no matter what comes my way, I'm going to make it. I'm going to finish the race. I'm going to fulfill my purpose, and nothing will stop me. The weight of consistency. Let me tell you something, family. The weight of consistency is not light. It is heavy. It is powerful, and it is the kind of strength that shapes your future when nobody's watching. Too many people want to skip the process. They want the results without the sacrifice. They want the rewards without the work. But let me tell you something. It doesn't come from the flashy moments or the breakthroughs that happen overnight. The real power, the real transformation comes from the weight of consistency. You see, consistency is not glamorous, it's not flashy, it doesn't get the applause, it's not the kind of thing that catches the eye. But when you look at the great men and women in the Bible, when you look at the lives of those who have walked before you, you'll see that the power behind their success was consistency. David didn't become king overnight. No, he was consistent with the sheep. He was consistent with the small tasks. He was faithful in the fields when nobody saw him. He kept doing what he was called to do, even when there were no crowds to cheer him on. He kept practicing with the slingshot. He kept worshiping with his heart. And when the time came for him to step into his purpose, the consistency he built in private was the same is true for you. Some of you are sitting here today wondering why your breakthrough hasn't come yet, why you're still waiting for your moment, your opportunity, your stage. And I want to remind you that the consistency you're building right now in the silence, in the quiet, in the hidden places, that's the very thing that's preparing you for the next level. You're being shaped by the weight of your consistency. Let me say this, consistency is not convenience. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. It's not about waking up one day and feeling like doing it. No, consistency means you keep doing what God has called you to do, even when it gets hard, even when you don't feel like it, even when the results don't seem to match the effort you're putting in. Consistency means you show up, you keep praying, you keep working, you keep trusting, and you keep believing, even when you don't see the fruit right away. Think about the farmer. A farmer doesn't plant a seed and come back the next day expecting a harvest. No, they plant the seed, water it, tend to the soil, and then they wait. And in that waiting, in that process of consistency, they're building something that will eventually bear fruit. But there's weight to that. It's not easy. There's a weight that comes with showing up every day, doing what you know is right, even when you can't see the harvest yet. But I'm here to tell you, that weight is not a burden, it's a blessing. It's a strength that is forming in your spirit. Some of you are wondering why you haven't seen the results you're looking for. Maybe you've been consistent, but it feels like nothing is changing. Maybe you've been working hard, but it seems like you're not getting ahead. Let me tell you something. Don't grow weary in well-doing. Keep planting those seeds. Keep sowing. Keep watering. Because the harvest is coming, and it's coming bigger and stronger than you can imagine. There is power in the weight of consistency. Now, let me take you to a place in the Word where we see consistency at work. Look at the Apostle Paul. Paul wasn't always popular. Paul wasn't always liked. He didn't have crowds following him everywhere. But Paul was consistent. He was faithful to his calling. He preached the gospel, whether he was in a prison cell or in the streets of a city. He wrote letters when he couldn't walk into a church. He kept going even when the road was long and difficult. And in the end, his consistency built the foundation of the church we know today. That's what consistency does. It builds a foundation. It's the unseen work that when the time is right, will stand strong. You might not see the results today, but every prayer you pray, every step you take, every act of faithfulness, it's building something strong. It's laying a foundation that will not be shaken. And when the storms come, when the trials hit, it's your consistency that will keep you standing. It's the weight of your daily obedience that will carry you through. But let me be real with you. This is not easy. It's not glamorous. It's not something that gets instant recognition. The world celebrates the big moments, the explosive victories, but it overlooks the quiet, consistent efforts that get us to those moments. People want to celebrate you when you're on stage, but they don't see the years of consistent work you put in to get there. They want to applaud you when you're walking in victory, but they don't understand the weight of consistency that carried you through the valleys. You're building something in the quiet, you're building something in the unseen. And the consistency you're showing now is going to pay off in ways you can't even begin to imagine. You might be overlooked right now. You might feel like nobody sees your effort, your sacrifice, your struggle, but hear me, the eyes of the Lord are upon you. He sees your labor of love. He sees your faithfulness, and He is going to reward you. I need you to understand that consistency has a way of compounding. Every step you take, every act of faithfulness, it doesn't just add up, it multiplies. You may feel like you're making small moves, but those small moves are building momentum. They are setting in motion a chain reaction that will lead you to your breakthrough. And when you step into that breakthrough, it won't just be for you, it will be for everyone who's watching your life. It will be a testimony of what can happen when you don't give up, when you don't quit, when you keep going, even when it's hard. So what I'm saying today is this: don't underestimate the weight of your consistency. Don't take for granted the power of showing up every day. The world may not see it, but God does. And He is building something strong in you, something that will stand the test of time. The weight you carry today will be the strength you walk in tomorrow. The effort you put in today will be the fruit you see tomorrow. Keep pressing, keep sowing, keep believing, because the weight of consistency is never wasted. It's the very thing that will take you to the place God has called you to. And when you step into that place, the world will see the strength that's been built in you quietly, consistently, and with great power. The unseen work of faith. Let me tell you something, family. There is a work that is happening right now in your life that nobody sees. It's the unseen work of faith. It's the kind of work that doesn't make headlines, it doesn't get applause, and it doesn't attract attention, but it's the kind of work that is shaping your future, laying the foundation for your breakthrough, and positioning you for the glory that is yet to come. We live in a world that loves to celebrate the visible. We love the flashy. We love the instant gratification. We love the quick results. But I'm here to tell you today that the most powerful work in your life, the most important work in your life, is the work that nobody sees. It's the work that happens in the quiet, in the secret place, in the unseen hours, when you're standing on the Word of God and believing for a miracle that hasn't manifested yet. You see, faith is not just something you talk about. Faith is not just something you pray about. Faith is something you do. Faith is a substance, it's a force, and it's a power that works behind the scenes, setting things in motion that you cannot yet see with your eyes. But don't you dare think for a minute that just because you can't see it, it's not happening. Oh, it's happening. There's an unseen work that is being done right now in your life, in your heart, in your spirit. And that work is preparing you for what's ahead. Think about it. When a farmer plants a seed, he doesn't see the roots growing beneath the soil. He doesn't see the seed sprouting and breaking through the earth, but he knows something is happening, even if he can't see it. He trusts that beneath the surface, life is being formed. Faith works the same way. You may not see the answers right away. You may not see the breakthroughs immediately, but I want to remind you today that God is doing something in your life that is unseen to the human eye, but is preparing you for a harvest that will be more glorious than you can imagine. You see, faith is not just about what you can see, it's about what you can't see. It's about what's happening in the spiritual realm that you can't yet perceive with your natural eyes. It's about the things God is lining up, the doors He's opening, the connections He's making, the plans He's orchestrating, all while you're walking in faith, trusting that He is working on your behalf. Faith is believing when you can't see the way. It's trusting when you don't have the answers. It's knowing that even when you can't feel it, God is moving on your behalf. Take a look at the story of Abraham. God gave him a promise, but for years, Abraham didn't see that promise come to fruition. For years, he had to walk by faith, believing that God would do what He said He would do. The promise was unseen, the miracle was delayed, but Abraham didn't stop believing. Abraham didn't give up. Abraham kept walking in faith, knowing that the unseen work of God was being done behind the scenes, and one day he would see the manifestation of the promise. Family, some of you are in the waiting room of life. You're in the place where nothing seems to be moving, where the promises seem distant and the breakthrough feels far away. But I want to encourage you today, the unseen work of faith is happening right now. The seeds you've sown in tears, the prayers you've whispered in the quiet, the steps you've taken in faith, even when you couldn't see the path ahead, those are the very things that are setting the stage for what's coming. God is doing something in the unseen, and He's working on your behalf, even when you can't see it. When you're in the unseen work of faith, you have to trust that God is moving on your behalf, even when you don't see it. Think about the story of the woman with the issue of blood. She had been suffering for 12 years, and nothing in the natural told her that her healing was coming. But she made a decision in her heart. that if she could just touch the hem of Jesus' garment, she would be healed. She couldn't see the healing yet. She couldn't see the results yet, but she moved in faith, believing that something was happening beneath the surface. And when she touched Jesus, immediately, the Bible says that the flow of her blood stopped. The unseen work of faith was completed in that moment. But it began long before the miracle manifested. Some of you are just like that woman. You're waiting for the miracle to show up, but I need you to understand that the unseen work of faith has already started. You may not see the healing right now, but God is working. You may not see the breakthrough right now, but God is moving. You may not see the door opening, but trust me when I say the door is already being opened in the spirit realm. Your faith is setting the stage for the miracle that is about to manifest. And let me tell you something else about the unseen work of faith. It's not always easy. Sometimes faith feels like a struggle. Sometimes you feel like you're walking in the dark, not knowing where to go or what to do next. But that's where the power of trust comes in. That's where the power of perseverance comes in. Even when you don't understand, even when you can't see the way, you keep believing, you keep trusting that the unseen work of faith is active and it's setting the stage for the miracle that is coming. Remember, family, faith is not about what you see. It's about what you believe. It's about trusting in the unseen even when the world tells you there's no reason to. It's about believing that God is working behind the scenes, even when the evidence isn't visible. The unseen work of faith is what is shaping your future. It's what is preparing you for the greatness that God has planned for your life. And when the time is right, you will see the manifestation of all the unseen work that's been happening in the spiritual realm. The unseen work of faith is a quiet work. It's a hidden work. It's a work that doesn't always get the credit, but it's the work that changes everything. So keep believing, keep trusting, keep walking in faith, because what you can't see right now is just as real, just as powerful, and just as important as what you can. And in time, the unseen work will be revealed for all to see. Onto your faith, family, because the unseen work of God is preparing you for a future that is greater than you can imagine. Keep trusting, keep believing, because your miracle is closer than you think. The transformative power of quiet victory. Let me tell you something, family. There is a power in quiet victory. I know it doesn't make sense to the world. The world wants loud victories. The world wants celebration in the streets. It wants fireworks, confetti, and all the applause. But I'm here to tell you that the greatest victories are often the quietest ones, the ones that nobody sees, the ones that are fought in the shadows, in the secret places of your heart, and in the quiet moments when you refuse to quit, even when it feels like nobody is watching. You see, the world celebrates the loud victories, the ones that are seen, the ones that are loud and obvious. But let me tell you something, family. The true transformative power is in the quiet victories. It's in the battles that no one knows you fought. It's in the moments when you're standing in the face of adversity, when the storm is raging around you and you don't have the strength to speak, but you still hold on. That's the victory that transforms you. That's the victory that shapes your destiny. The truth is, family, we live in a generation that's obsessed with the show. We're obsessed with the spectacle. We want everything to be big, to be seen, to be heard. But God is in the quiet victories. God is in the victories that don't come with a microphone. God is in the victories that don't come with a crowd. He's in the victories that come with no applause, no recognition, and no fanfare. He's in the victories that are birthed out of faithfulness, persistence, and quiet endurance. Let me take you to the Word. Think about David. We know him as the giant slayer, the one who stood in front of Goliath and declared that the battle was the Lord's. But David didn't start there. David's victory didn't begin on the battlefield in front of all the people. David's victory began in the quiet, in the fields, when no one was watching him. It began when he was a shepherd, tending to the sheep, practicing with his sling. It began when he was alone, singing songs to God and building a relationship with the Creator. David's victory was born out of quiet faithfulness. And when the time came when God opened the door, David stepped into the spotlight. But understand this, family, the real victory wasn't in the moment when he faced Goliath. It was in the quiet moments that led up to it. It was in the times when David was alone doing the work, being faithful with what he had, trusting God when nobody else believed in him. That's where the power of transformation lies. It lies in your quiet moments of victory, when you're faithful even when nobody sees you, when you're persistent even when no one's cheering you on. Let me ask you something today. How many quiet victories have you had that nobody knows about? How many times have you kept going when everyone else quit? How many times have you fought battles in your heart against fear, doubt, and anxiety, and you didn't tell a soul, but you held on anyway? Those are the victories that shape your character. Those are the victories that prepare you for the big battles ahead, and they have transformative power. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult when you're fighting battles that nobody knows about. You're struggling with things in your mind, in your body, in your spirit, and it feels like nobody sees you. But hear me today, God sees you. He sees every quiet victory. He sees every moment of faithfulness, every prayer you've prayed in silence, every time you've chosen to walk in obedience, even when it didn't make sense. And those victories, those quiet moments, they're building something in you. They're preparing you for the bigger victories that are yet to come. But here's the thing, family, quiet victories are not just about what you're overcoming, they're about who you're becoming. See, we often focus on the result, but the real power is in the transformation that happens in you when you keep going, when you keep fighting, when you keep trusting. Quiet victories build your character. They shape your faith. They teach you patience. They teach you endurance. They teach you how to trust God when you can't see the outcome. And that's what God is after. He's after your transformation. He's after the kind of faith that doesn't need a crowd to keep going. He's after the kind of faith that stands strong in the face of opposition, that holds on when the pressure is on, that believes even when it looks like nothing is happening. Think about the woman with the issue of blood. For 12 long years, she fought a battle that no one saw. She went from doctor to doctor. She spent all her money and she got no better. The world overlooked her. The world ignored her. But she didn't give up. She didn't let the silence of her struggle define her. She fought in silence. She endured in silence. And when the moment came, when she touched the hem of Jesus' garment, her quiet victory became her public testimony. The world didn't see the 12 years of pain. The world didn't see the battles she fought in her spirit. But when her victory came, it was transformative. Not just for her, but for everyone around her. And I'm here to tell you, your quiet victories are setting the stage for a public testimony that will transform others. So let me remind you today, there's power in quiet victory. There's transformative power in the moments when you keep going, when nobody's cheering you on. There's power in those moments when you refuse to quit, when you refuse to give up, when you refuse to settle for less than what God has promised you. Those are the victories that shape your destiny. Those are the victories that prepare you for the greater things that God has in store. And when that moment comes, when the breakthrough happens, when the promise is fulfilled, it will be a victory that nobody can deny. It will be a victory that speaks for itself. It will be a victory that's not just about you. It will be about the God who sustained you in the quiet, who held you up when you were down, who gave you strength when you had none left. Family, I need you to understand something. Don't underestimate the power of quiet victory. The world may not see it, but God sees it. And He is using it to prepare you for the greatest breakthrough of your life. Keep fighting those silent battles. Keep showing up in faith. Keep trusting. Keep believing. Because the quiet victories you're winning right now are setting the stage for the loudest triumphs yet to come.